Cost Cutters is your family's full-service salon specializing in cuts, colors, and curls. Visit any one of our professional stylists today and get the look you want for less.
Well, welcome to Making the Grade. It's great to be back here as we get ready for the Thanksgiving holidays, and we're going to be talking a little bit about our voluntary pre-K program. We have Kelly Cronebush and Stephanie Gilland who are going to share some information about our voluntary pre-K program. The voluntary pre-K is new to the district this year. Can you give a brief overview of what the program looks like?
Yeah, so it was Governor Dayton and the Minnesota legislature released funding and established the program in 2016, and we actually got funding the second round through here in 2017, so this is our first year with the program. And it really is a way for us to prepare those kindergarten students that will be going next year success into the kindergarten classrooms.
Great, and what do you have for goals for the program?
To be successful. So when we look at that into a kindergarten classroom, we always view the early childhood classrooms as a practice classroom. Come in and explore, there's a lot of play-based learning, and we want families and the children to be comfortable, as well as both the early childhood teachers and the kindergarten teachers. So our goal is that successful transition will happen and the kids will be confident to enter that kindergarten classroom and know how to ask an adult for help, or they will be able to navigate the environment themselves and find the bathroom independently. And so some of those things that we don't think of, we hear goals for kindergarten, and we might think, numbers and letters, that type of stuff, but there's just so much more that happens within the walls of the preschool classroom with our teachers that set them up for success as they go in.
Sure, and Kelly, as a voluntary pre-K teacher, what do you see as the students enter, and during the course of that time in voluntary pre-K, what do you hope that they're able to achieve?
A big part of our day is that social and emotional readiness piece. Those academics are going to come as they are able to attend to a circle and explore on their own and make friends. So a big part of our push is just that social emotional piece of the day and getting them that exposure of a group setting.
Okay, great. A question maybe for both of you. What types of standards does the voluntary pre-K program have for students?
So we use a creative curriculum developmental tool, and with that goes teaching strategies goal assessment piece, and that directly aligns with the Minnesota state standards and the early childhood indicators of progress. So a lot of that focus is on the cognitive skills, their social emotional skills, physical skills, language development, and those literacy math skills also.
All right, Stephanie, anything to add to that?
No, I think as an outsider that come in, they're in the trenches teaching in those classrooms, but to come in and see how they run, when we hear assessment, it's watching them independently play in the classroom and navigate their environment in a natural way, and then taking where that child is at that current state and revolving and creating your lesson plans based on that child and the whole group. And so it's just really neat to see their expertise come into play and really aim towards each and every child in that room based on their needs, because when you're 3 and 4 and 5 years old, it's way different than the person sitting next to you at the breakfast table. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you share more specifics about the students who are in the program, who's eligible for the program, what ages are involved in the program, and where in our district is it offered?
So it's a grade level funded program. So those that are 4 by September 1st of this year are eligible for the program because they will ultimately be going to kindergarten next fall. The other requirements that we have is that initially we had it where that you were in the Washington Kosciuszko Elementary area. We actually, as of Friday, received an amendment to open that boundary area to anyone in the community that meets that 4-year-old requirement and also qualifies for the free and reduced lunch income guidelines of that. Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. What are some of the expectations for these students when they start kindergarten, and how do you communicate with the kindergarten teachers to make sure that students are as ready as possible for that kindergarten year?
So part of that is our community has this birth to grade 3 committee, and part of that committee has a transition committee, which Stephanie and I were both part of. And we've created a transition form that kind of follows those kids along to kindergarten. So that helps with that communication piece of letting those kindergarten teachers know kind of a little snapshot of the kids as they're coming into kindergarten. And we, as a committee, there's preschool teachers, there's principals, there's kindergarten teachers on that committee that kind of developed it together and looked at those social emotional expectations, the math and literacy expectations. Kindergarten standards are definitely on the rise. So that's definitely a big push for us, is to kind of meet those standards, but also really keep that focus on the play and social and emotional aspect of a preschooler.
Great.
And that transition committee has given us a lot of conversation, and that's a community-wide program, so that's not within the school district. It's a birth to grade 3 committee that we have, working with multiple organizations. And I don't think we explained it at the beginning, but this is actually a mixed delivery system. So Kelly actually is an employee of the Winona State University preschool program, and then I work with Winona Area Public Schools. So Winona Area Public School is kind of the holder of the little ones, and then we get to place within their environment, so they get the best of both worlds. But we within the district are continuing our conversations 3 times this year. The early childhood staff will meet with the kindergarten staff to have those exact conversations. What does it look like for a child to be ready? What does it look like for a family to be ready? What does it look like for us to be ready for these learners that are coming our way too? So it's always an ongoing conversation, so we can make sure that we're meeting the needs of everyone involved in the progress.
Wonderful. It's a great partnership between Winona Area Public Schools and Winona State University. Can you talk a little bit more about the pieces to that partnership, or anything else that you want to add about how that cooperative works?
Sure. So Winona State and the district have actually had a partnership for 13 years. We have had a preschool program at Madison Elementary School, and 3 years ago the WK partnership opened, and I was at the forefront of starting that too. And we have an inclusive program. We have kids that are on IEPs. We work with a special education teacher and an educational assistant that are in the classroom. And then when this voluntary preschool program came up, it just was a perfect fit to kind of include those kids in our program as well.
It's important that we are able to work with students at a very young age to try to minimize the achievement gap and address some of those issues. Can you talk a little bit about how the voluntary pre-K program can help address any gaps that students have and make sure that all students are ready for kindergarten?
Yep, I think sometimes preschool can become a luxury for families. A lot of it is a pay-for-service type of option in our community. So to be able to offer a program like this voluntary pre-K at no cost to the family, we can reduce that financial barrier that we're looking at, and we continue to look at those barriers that families are experiencing. For example, at our Community Kids program, we just now offered transportation, and every family has the option to ride the bus to and from school, so transportation is no longer a barrier. But research shows the earlier they get these experiences, the better off they are. And it's practice for the parent and the school as well. Like, how can you be involved as a parent? Because they are their very first teacher. So what does that look like? And they get practice in that preschool classroom just as much as the children do. So we look at that and taking that play-based learning and transitioning it into the skills that they need in the early elementary.
Wonderful. Can you describe what a typical day looks like in voluntary pre-K? Although there might not be a
organized chaos, right?
No. Very, very busy, very energetic. A typical day is play. A huge chunk of our morning, the kids that are VPK are there for about 3 hours, so about 7:45 to 10:45. So they get a breakfast when they come right in the door. So that's a great way to start off our morning on the right foot. And then we have gross motor time, either inside or outside, depending on weather. We have circle times. We have a split literacy circle time where it's more targeted to the specifics of the kids and the specific needs of the development. And we have our choice time, our play-based time, where we also work on those targeted pre-academic skills, either individually or in small group learning. And we have some musical exploration, and as Stephanie mentioned, some of those kids do receive transportation, so then they transition out on a bus. Some are parent pickup, but it leaves a nice place to have that parent communication as well. A lot of those families that do that pickup and drop off piece, we get that extra communication with them.
Great. I know that it can be difficult sometimes for parents to send their young children to a program like this, even though they see the great benefits. Do you have any advice for parents or about how to make that transition easier for students and for parents?
I think anytime you can observe a preschool classroom, I would highly recommend it as a parent. I actually did an observation at the site the other day, and right away when I walked in, and I'm a parent myself, so to be able to see, the adults on the floor with the little ones doing a puzzle, and there was one teacher actually laying on her belly, eye level with the learners, and these kids to be able to manage those conflict resolution skills with their peer, just because you took a toy and they figured that out without having to have an adult come in. It's a rewarding experience to see the confidence in their faces, and you see it in all realms. It just really is a very safe environment for little ones to come into and learn exactly how they need to. So if you can at any time just even peek into a preschool environment, you will see just little kids blossoming and thriving and really being ready to take that next step, because in kindergarten you don't get to go with them. It's just very different when you go in there. So to be able to give them that practice that year before, I can't stress the importance if it's able to do it, to take advantage of that opportunity.
Great. With just a minute or two left, I know the program is off and running, but are there any openings? Or if there was a parent who wanted to get their child into the program, what could they do?
Yep, we do have a couple of openings left. We're dwindling down on those openings, but your best option would be to give myself a call as the program coordinator, and that is 507-494-0915. And I can walk them through that registration process. It takes place on the Winona Area Public Schools website. You'll enroll a new student and get it all up and running, and then we get you placed and start the fun.
Wonderful. Anything else that either of you would like to add about the program?
It's definitely fun to be part of. We look forward to this year and next year as well. So.
All right. Well, I want to thank Kelly and Stephanie for being with us on Making the Grade today and sharing information about the voluntary pre-K program.
Thank you.
Thank you. Did we?
Perfect.
Perfect.
Perfect. Getting the right look at the right price
Perfect.
is always in style. At Cost Cutters.
Located in the Professional Building in the Winona Mall, 507-454-6030.
What's a Southern girl? It's waking up before the sun rises. It's loving the simple things in life, like the dirt roads that lead you home. It's working hard to get what you want. It's hanging your own stands, breaking your own ground, and strategizing every little move for that one moment when everything you've worked for is standing right in front of you. Even if I fail a million times, I keep pushing myself till I'm exhausted, filthy, and about to give up. And that's when the adrenaline hits.
Welcome back to Making the Grade. This is Rich Dahman, Superintendent with Winona Area Public Schools, and I'm here with Sarah Dixon, Social Studies teacher and National Honor Society coordinator, and Jade Joswick, junior and National Honor Society member at Winona Senior High School. So it's great to have both of you with us today. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And we have some questions and some information today about National Honor Society. And maybe we can start by having you both introduce yourselves and tell a little bit about your background with the school district and some things that you have going on, not necessarily specific to National Honor Society, before we get into that.
Sure. So I'm Sarah Dixon. I've taught in the school district for 6 years. I have taught in some previous school districts, and I teach a variety of classes, freshmen through seniors, and I have been advising the National Honor Society since I started.
Great.
I'm Jade Joswick. I'm a junior at the high school. I've been going to the Winona School District since my freshman year. I moved here. And I'm in a variety of clubs. I'm in Student Council, W Club, and NHS.
All right, great. Well, Sarah, maybe you can talk a little bit about what the application process looks like for students to be involved in National Honor Society, and then Jade, maybe from a student standpoint, what that application process looks like.
Sure. So students are invited to apply the summer after their sophomore year, and they have to reach a certain grade point average, 3.66, to be invited to apply. There are some exceptions. They can apply for an exemption if there was some sort of extenuating circumstances, but otherwise that's the academic pillar that they've met by having that GPA, and then they go through the application process with listing any community events they've been part of, getting letters of recommendation, and so on.
Okay, great. And what does that look like from a student's standpoint?
Well, we have to write an essay about our two weakest pillars and our weakest pillar and our strongest pillar. And then we have to go and find a teacher, like Ms. Dixon said, to recommend us. And then, yeah, we have to go back and we have to list the community service we've done and when we've done it, and we have to get the approval of the person who coordinated that event.
Great. And for the group as a whole, what types of projects and events and volunteerism does National Honor Society take part in, both within our school and around our communities?
Yeah, it's really a variety of in-school and out-of-school events. National Honor Society students have to put in 40 hours of volunteer work, plus be in charge of their own service project, or they can do it in a small group of 3. So it's quite a commitment of hours, and those hours need to be at least 20 hours of things that NHS has specifically been invited to take part in. So, for instance, they recently, last weekend, they were part in the Flipping for Books. Were you at Flipping for Books?
I was, yeah.
Okay, what did you do?
Well, there was kids back in the kitchen, so some people were serving pancakes and the sausage for the kids who came in. It was all free. There was kids at the booths, so they were helping in the gym, so there was like this imagination playground thing. And then some kids were handing out, because every kid who comes in gets a free book, so NHS members were handing those out. And then people were just in the back doing dishes and coordinating lines.
So, and it wasn't difficult to get kids. I mean, it's 7:30 on a Saturday morning, and we had more than enough that volunteered to sign up, so I'm always really impressed with that. But other things, they help out with PTA events at the elementary schools. They help out community service organizations like the Eagles Club or the Lions Club when they're having maybe a dinner that's going to be a fundraiser for a new playground or something like that. We'll have NHS students come and help serve the meals. They've worked with Central Lutheran Church with their Wednesday night meals in the past. They help with the Christmas tree pickup with the Kiwanis Club. They have helped with the cemetery walk. And in the school, they do tutoring, which is a great thing to kind of match them with some students that are struggling in certain classes, and they set up some tutoring time before school and after school and help them. Sometimes it's just a short-term thing, sometimes it might last for a semester.
I know that tutoring piece is important because sometimes students can learn materials in a different way if they're learning from a peer rather than hearing it from a teacher. So I think that's another great benefit to our student body. Approximately how many students are involved with National Honor Society?
About 50 to 60.
Okay. And I know that you have a blood drive as part of the work that you do. Can you give some specifics and share a little bit about the blood drive?
Yep, so that's my service learning project. And it's Saturday, December 16th, 9 to 1. And you can sign up by going on the Red Cross website, and then there's a code, which is Winona High. And you can also go and call the community education office if you want to sign up. And walk-ins are also welcome. Yeah, it's going to be a great project.
Yeah, and that's open to anyone in the community
Yes.
can come in and donate blood?
Yes.
Are you also looking for some assistance in volunteers to help work at the blood drive, or is that something that is already all lined up?
Yep, so we're probably going to ask the NHS students to help with that, but any volunteers are welcome. And we're also hoping that a lot of students, because I'm 17, so I'm going to be donating blood, so we're hoping that a lot of students will get involved as well.
All right, that sounds great. We have a few more minutes, a few other questions overall about National Honor Society. I know that there is, and you talked a little bit about the 4 pillars or 4 characteristics of National Honor Society. Can you speak a little bit more about what those are and what those mean, and maybe some examples of things that either you've done, Jade, or that other students have done to demonstrate their ability in those areas?
Sure. So the 4 pillars are education,
Academics.
academics, community service, and then
Leadership and character.
leadership and character. Okay. So when we were signing up, the character was based off our recommendations from teachers. And so that's just how you perform in the classroom, how you are as a student. Leadership's also a big part of the classroom, and also outside when you're working with like the community. It's what you do not like how do you give back. So like I used to volunteer for the library. That was example of something that I put down on my recommendation. Or like the softball team, we volunteer at Ashley for the arts every year. Just stuff like that, something that us as kids can do to give back to the community that we grew up in.
Great.
And I would just add that the leadership pillar I think is really important, and that NHS celebrates a lot of different kinds of leaders. I know that the qualifications can vary from school to school, and we really have the philosophy that you can be a quiet leader, and that's just as good as being, first chair or captain of a team. So those that quality I think is really promoted when the students are going out there and representing the high school in the community, taking on things, doing things on their own, and being leaders when they are mentoring these little kids when they're at the PTA events or the math night at one of the elementary schools. And it's a great organization for a variety of kids. Some of the extroverted kids are part of it, and that's wonderful, but sometimes it's kind of the quiet leaders who show up, they do the work, and they're great role models for the people they're working with.
Great.
Yeah.
Did you have something to add on that, Jade?
Yeah, the kids, it's usually the extroverted kids who get a lot of credit, like in the classroom, because they're the ones who speak up. So as Ms. Dixon was saying, that more introverted kids, when they're in NHS, they get a lot more credit, and it's a way for them to shine a little bit more, because you can see what they're doing. If you're, talking about, oh, you did this project or whatever, and you can go to that and you can see, wow, I mean, these kids are actually like really involved.
Great. I think an important part of what we do with Winona Area Public Schools is help students prepare for what life after high school looks like, that college and career readiness that we talk about. Can you speak a little bit about how involvement in National Honor Society and some of the different parts of that program help students be successful as they move into adulthood?
I would say they do learn how to work with a wide variety of people, and sometimes they realize, oh, I really love working with little kids, or sometimes it's with people who are elderly, who need help with something in their home. So that kind of exposes them to a lot more things, and it does also the sense of responsibility, because when they sign up, they are expected to show up, and they do. I mean, on a rare occasion, I'll get the late night email of somebody who's come down with an illness, but they are showing up to things on their own, on the weekends, and just taking direction. And sometimes they have to figure out how to work a project themselves. Sometimes they have to just know how to see what's needed, and they have to develop this service project all on their own and figure out the details of it. They can't just sign, that's something beyond just signing up for a volunteer opportunity. They really have to be part of the organizing, which I think is a great skill, because every job that I know needs an aspect of that kind of leadership.
Yeah, we're really, we have to be accountable for what we do when we're in NHS, and that's something that we don't really get from everyday school to school. I mean, we have to do our homework and everything, but this is, it affects other people, not just us, which I think is really important.
Great. I know that every year you have an induction ceremony for the new students who are being inducted into the National Honor Society. Can you share a little bit about what that program looks like and give some specifics?
Yes, we have it at the beginning of second semester, so that students they join NHS, and then they do put in some of their hours first semester, and in order to make sure that they really are committed to this organization. And then at the beginning of second semester, they wear graduation gowns. We have a ceremony in the auditorium. We have a speaker. They take a little pledge going over the 4 pillars, and the officers, the NHS officers, will each make a little speech about each one of those pillars. And then it's a great time just to kind of celebrate with their family that they have worked hard to get to this point. I mean, they have kept up a GPA. That's rather difficult, and also clearly have demonstrated that they're willing to give back to the community. So they take lots of pictures with themselves, and we were all friends in elementary school, and now we're in NHS together, and those sorts of things. And it's a nice little celebration that we have afterwards.
Yeah, you had mentioned that there's typically a speaker at the induction ceremony. Is that an outside speaker, or is there someone lined up to come in this year?
Sometimes it's been the mayor or a state representative, or we had Katie Smith, who was in the district, but she was Teacher of the Year, or somebody who is known for their volunteer work in the community, that perhaps was part of NHS when they were in high school. So,
All right. Anything else that you'd like to add? We have a little bit under a minute left.
Well, I'd just like to say I'm very excited for this induction ceremony because I'm new this year. And I think that NHS is really important for people to recognize and for students to get involved with, because it is a way for students to interact with people in the community that we normally wouldn't have. People that we're not related to, people that we're not friends with. And it's just to get everybody involved in our school system, because I think it's really important.
Well, wonderful. It's a great program, a great recognition for students. So Sarah, thank you for your work with National Honor Society, and Jade, congratulations on being inducted to the Winona Senior High School
Thank you.
National Honor Society. Thank you both for coming in today.
yeah, thank you.
Thank you.